Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Walt here from Down the Block Sports, and today I want to talk about the NFL. A major quarterback domino has fallen in NFL free agency. What I want to talk about today is who that quarterback is, where he's planning on signing, and what this means for that team moving forward. Joining me today to talk about that move and more is Michael Balko, the host of the Michael Balko Show. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back.
What's up, man? Long time no see. Blessed and
Yeah.
honored to be on your show again today.
Yeah, man. The second this move happened, you were the first person I thought of to hit up because Derek Carr is planning on signing a 4-year contract with the New Orleans Saints. Instant reaction here knowing that news coming out this morning.
I'm hyped. I'm so hyped. I've been on
Should
the
be.
Derek Carr train for a hot minute. I think Derek Carr, I tweeted it out not too long ago. Obviously, everybody who has listened to the Walt show in the past knows I'm a lifelong New Orleans Saints fan, but I tweeted out impartially, non-biasedly a few months ago when the whole Derek Carr saga was starting that, regardless of the team that Derek Carr signs with, if that team is in the NFC South, that team is winning the division. And, I'm fortunate and super hyped that it's the New Orleans Saints because I don't think unless the Panthers go out and do something crazy like get Aaron Rodgers, I don't see how any team in the South wins the division than the New Orleans Saints. So I'm super pumped. Derek Carr instantly makes us a contender, and we don't know the numbers yet for the contract, but I would imagine it's probably somewhat lucrative, but we could technically somehow, some way be in a position where it could help us in the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, I think this deal makes a ton of sense for so many reasons. One, Derek Carr was in a situation he did not like. He's in a situation much better with the New Orleans Saints. Two, New Orleans didn't have a first-round pick this year. So if they were to go after one of the 4 young quarterbacks, their pick is now in Philadelphia. They had a top 10 pick. They moved up to get Chris Olave, who did look really damn good this year, but if you're a team like the Saints and you were going to be aggressive after a quarterback, going after someone like Derek Carr made a ton of sense. Now, I said New Orleans is a good situation for him. We can kind of break down the roster in a bit. Jacobs and Adams are 2 studs at the position. He doesn't have that Balko in New Orleans, but Kamara, even though suspended, are likely. And Olave still a pretty damn good duo to work with here offensively.
Yeah, and we still have Michael Thomas as well. I think Derek Carr coming to New Orleans maybe actually keeps Michael Thomas on the roster. He has to have some sort of intel because, like you mentioned, he is missing out on that good Raiders tandem that he had there. Not to mention, he turned down the New York Jets offer. I know that the Jets offered him, and so did the Panthers. I know that they did. I can't imagine that they didn't. But he turned down whatever they were offering him to come to New Orleans, which means he turned down very young, exciting rosters like the Panthers and the Jets, who have nothing but up and able to build around him and all that good stuff. So, and he turned down very good, well-ran teams in the Jets and the Panthers. So, I mean, we got Frank Reich and Saleh that we're talking about here. So he turned down 2 very good players, coaches to come to New Orleans. And I think that means he's going to have Michael Thomas to throw to. He's going to have Chris Olave to throw to, a young up-and-coming Rashid Shaheed to throw to. Kamara, after his suspension, we don't know what's going on with that. A top 5 defense in the NFL. And, I mean, the Saints are obviously, they're going to go and they're going to get another running back because we don't know what's going to happen with Kamara. It could be a rookie in the draft, and there's some stars in this year's draft, or it could be potentially a Leonard Fournette, maybe. You have no idea simply because sorry, my Twitter is erupting as I
bet it is.
But we have no idea because Derek Carr coming to New Orleans instantly, like I said, makes them a contender, which means players are going to want to come to New Orleans, especially when you look at some players that were on the Raiders that are set to be free agents like Mac Hollins. He had a great connection with Derek Carr. Maybe he comes and fills that wide receiver 3 spot for the Saints. And who knows, man? I'm excited right now.
So when you looked at Derek Carr's career, you always said he's a good quarterback on a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
You looked at the Saints the last couple of years, they were a good team with a bad quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Is this finally the merger he's been waiting for, Balko?
It has to be, and it kind of reminds me a lot of like Drew Brees, because Drew Brees was a rocky quarterback on a tough Chargers team, and he comes to New Orleans and revives his career and leads us to a Super Bowl. Hey, Super Bowl's in Vegas this year. He said he was going to be back. So, I mean, the writing's
To
on the
imagine
wall.
that.
You imagine that storyline. The NFL is all about the storylines. We just got to go sign Matt Collins. We have the former Raiders coach Dennis Allen, a couple other former Raiders. I mean, come on now.
So you mentioned the division. No more Tom Brady. The Falcons still uncertain if they'll be aggressive at QB or go with Riddler. We also have Carolina, who looks like a team that could be drafting a young quarterback. Definitely some wins available here in the division, unless a major move is made. But Balko, what do you think the ceiling is for this team from a wins perspective? I know the roster is certainly not set, and there are some suspensions that has to work out with. But how many wins do you think this team can have with Derek Carr at QB?
I think we're looking at least 10 or 11.
Yeah,
just
I agree.
Bare minimum. It's hard, like you said, it's very hard to project what the roster is going to look like before the draft and before free agency. But I mean, the Saints made one of the first big splashes of the offseason last year. We're making one again this year. And we're getting our quarterback in Derek Carr. And, it's going to ultimately free up a ton of, or answer a bunch of questions on the roster. Obviously this is going to be a looming Jameis Winston gets released. There's no doubt about it. We're going to be able to cut some cap space there. I don't hate the idea of potentially bringing back Andy Dalton on a cheap, year-long, 2-year-long deal, but I still think we're in the mix in like the second or third round to go after Tennessee's Hendon Hooker. I know that he's had several conversations with the Saints so far. They've been very productive from what I've heard. And just all the initial reports is that there's mutual interest. I know Saints players are lobbying for it as well. So there's a lot of mutual interest between Hendon Hooker and the New Orleans Saints. So I think that would be a huge steal. I don't like to use the phrase take advantage of, but definitely we're going to be taking advantage of the fact that he had that serious injury. And he's not in a position where he has to play right now. If anything, it's just you sit back, you learn from Derek Carr, we play you when we need you. But honestly, right now the Saints, they don't even have to really worry about a quarterback, especially if they bring back Andy Dalton. I don't even think they need to go out and draft one at all, because we have our guy, in Derek Carr now.
So, Balko, final question here. You guys aren't going to have unlimited cap space now with the addition of Carr. You have to expect some cap casualties could fall here with this addition. But from your perspective, what are the things you think the Saints need to go after here to complete the roster here and make a run in the NFC?
Yeah, I definitely think we need to get a tight end who is a tight end. Whether it's re-sign Juwan Johnson and give him that more productive role, that's probably where I'm leaning. Or I would love nothing more than to get Dalton Kincaid in the draft. He's one of my favorite players. I know there's some very good free agent tight ends this year as well. We could look in the South and go get Cameron Braid if we want to, who was recently released. Spend money on Dalton Schultz, but we're not going to have much of it. So I think more or less re-signing Juwan Johnson would be our best bet, and then maybe adding a rookie like Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. Maybe that's where we spend our first round pick. I would not be mad about that. And then I think we need to continue to build up that offensive line, build your bench a little bit. You got to have some room there for injuries, because Saints get injured just like every other team, more all the time. We get injured all the time, and it's always in the most crucial moments and all that good stuff. So you do that, and then you continue to build up your defense. As a defensive head coach in Dennis Allen, he's going to continue to do that anyways. So, you got to pick your diamonds in the rough a little bit and continue to build that way. But this is a very, very talented draft. There's going to be some very good talent late into the draft, and I'm super pumped for it. And I think the Saints have done a very, very, very good job, actually. It's hard to give Dennis Allen and the staff really any credit after that debacle of last season, but the fact that we were able to trade our retired head coach to get a first-round pick, and, that puts us in a position where we don't have to now use that pick to trade up and get a quarterback. We now have our quarterback. All of that good stuff. And now we're out here in a position to where we can potentially keep our Pro Bowl wide receiver, Michael Thomas, and build around this offense. And it's just exciting. It's an exciting time to be a New Orleans Saint fan right now.
Yeah, it's exciting. You should be excited. I think you guys are going to have a really good year this year. Derek Carr is on his way to the New Orleans Saints. Balko, before I let you go, man, how can our listeners here keep in touch with you on social media?
Yeah, Twitter is at Michael Balko Jr. Instagram is michael.balko. You can find my podcast, The Michael Balko Show, everywhere you listen to podcasts at. So y'all tune in.
Awesome. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Alec Walt Show. I'm Alec Walt alongside Michael Balko. What do you think of the addition of Derek Carr going to the New Orleans Saints? Feel free to give me your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more of my exclusive content. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you very soon.